to make a channel strip and use it in a mix on a bunch of different channels. Only like 8 tracks, kind of a small mix. The exciting part is I'm going to show you what plugins go into the channel strip, why I use them, where that concept comes from. We're going to look at some analog examples, and we're going to use all Ableton stock plugins so you can easily build this on your own. But you won't have to, because I'm going to build it, make a preset, give it to you for free to download from a link on Facebook or somewhere in the free resources part of the Mixotexture site. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be fun. I love this topic. Channel strips are, it's like a universal concept in mixing. Like anytime you have a signal, like a microphone, and then a speaker on the other end, it's going to go through a channel strip somewhere along the way. That's just like the amplifier, all the stuff that happens. So let me get my monitor screen up so I can see your questions and comments. And apparently my soundtrack just faded out because I had some volume automation in there. So I'm going to put a little loop on that, restart that. This is the track that we're going to mix when I get into full screen, which will be very soon. Hi. And monitor screen coming up. I know this always takes a second, but I really like to see your comments and make sure we're connected. Because otherwise I'm just talking to myself, and what kind of fun is that? Matt Moreland, what's up? Andy May, this one's for you, dude. This is for the question last week. Yirka's here. 3 other people. Cool. Yeah, my favorite thing about last week was on Friday when I asked people, what do you want to talk about next week? What should I talk about? You know, because there's a lot of topics. And 2 people said the same thing. Andy May and Alex Lacey, I think, both said, hey, talk about channel strips and how you use them. And the fun thing is that channel strips are all the same. It's like a template you start with, and then you can apply it to any sound you get. So before I go full screen, and make sure, tell me if I sound okay, if you can hear me. See how I moved the mic over here? So when I'm looking at the camera, I'm talking into the mic. Duh. Yirka, you will recognize this mixing board because you have seen it and plugged into it in some shows. This was my live sound board for years with decorated glittery tape. And when we say channel strip, I want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. So let's pick one strip, okay? That's the bottom. That's a volume fader. And everything from the very top down one straight line is what we call a channel strip because it's like a vertical strip. People who go to a huge recording studio for the first time sometimes get intimidated when they see this massive mixing board with like 90 channels or 96 or whatever. But really, they're all the same. If you understand the vertical channel strip from top to bottom, all 96 of them are the same thing. And then you can go into the details. And there's a couple other things that make it universal. Number one, the sound starts at the top. So that's a mic input, that can be an instrument input, whatever. And then there's another copy of it to take a direct out insert if you want to record it to an external recorder. Next, we have the volume knob, trim knob, gain knob. This increases the size of the voltage in the circuit. So it's like your input level. You want that to be nice and loud. Sound is good. Thank you, Mats. So that's the sound comes in, and then you turn it up to get the best signal to noise ratio. That's what you want, the most sound, the least background noise. Then we have this EQ static, and I like Soundcraft because they give you this white panel, so when you're in a dark room, you can see which ones are EQs. 3-band EQ, high shelf, low shelf like a DJ mixer, mid-range like a DJ mixer, but this white one lets you pick the frequency, which is a little bit better than a DJ mixer, which I love these EQs. Next, what do we have down here? 2 aux send knobs. What is an aux send? It's just a volume knob to a different place. This volume knob comes out the jack over here, right? Yeah. And then the other volume knob comes out the jack over here. So if I had like an effects unit, I could send it out to the effects unit. Or if I had a monitor speaker, like a monitor in a DJ booth, you could think about that as like your booth monitor volume. Aux send is just a volume knob for another output. Then we have the yellow one is a pan knob, left and right. Then we've got our mute switch, doop doop, our solo switch, doop doop, and the volume level. So a lot of this is similar to what you see in Ableton already. The cool thing about Ableton is Session View is set up like a channel strip. So let's go into Ableton land. And here we are. Now the differences are up at the very top, you don't have a microphone jack, obviously, because you can't plug a mic into your computer screen. But conceptually, the sound comes in the top of the Ableton channel and it goes down. And the thing I love about Session View are all these clips basically represent the sound. So instead of thinking like, oh, here's a kick drum itself, you could think, okay, this sound, this loop is like having a microphone on a kick drum. You know what I mean? It's like it's coming in. Finn Max, hey, it was good. So the whole entire area of clips in Session View, this whole area is like our sound sources at the top of the channel. then we don't have as many controls. We don't have the input volume. We don't have the EQ section. We do have the sends, which are like a volume knob to another place. So when I turn up send A, the kick drum appears over here on the A return. Basic stuff. And then the hardcore universal everywhere parameters, pan knob, volume fader, on off switch. And remember the on off, the mute switch, this is really like a bus assignment switch. The master channel is your master left right bus. So you could kind of think of like this switch as like, oh, I assign this channel to the master bus or I take it out of the master bus. That doesn't matter on a small mixer, but when you get into bigger mixers with like 8 buses or something, you might see in this section a grid of like 4 switches that would assign one sound to go to like another pair of outputs. So you could have a live sound in the big front speakers out front, another copy going to the tape recorder, another copy going to a small monitor speaker in the booth. You know, it's useful to have copies of your sounds. Or if there's a video person who shows up and they're like, hey, I want to record the show. You got to make a separate mixer for the video person, so you give them a different bus. So that's what the basic channel strip in Ableton, it already exists, and you have a simple sound, send, pan, volume, mute assignment, and then the solo button and the record switch at the bottom. Let me know if that makes sense. Give me a yes, Steve, you're the most awesome person in the entire universe. And let's go through and make some channel strips. Now, I'm going to decimate this one. That's my kick drum channel. I'm going to delete. Oh my God, I deleted it. Terrifying. It's always scary to delete everything, right? So here we have, oh, it's so quiet. A little tiny kick drum all by itself. Christoph, thank you. Good quality video. Sounds good. Awesome. Dave Morsey. Cool. I'm jacked in on Ethernet. Should be, that took me a long time to get it right. So what are we going to put in a channel strip? Should I look at, do you want to look at the analog one again? I don't think so. I want to keep going. Let's copy what we had. So the very first thing up top was an input gain knob. So let's drop utility plugin, and I'm even going to name this gain because we need a way to get our hands on some more volume. What's the next thing in the mixing board? The gain knob. How about, well, digital boards give you more options because you can use more controls without having to have like actual cables plugging things in and out. So on a lot of digital boards, the next thing you get is a gate, especially for live sound. This lets you mute sounds that are not active as much. Like if you have a microphone for a backup singer, so they might not be singing the whole time, so you want a gate to cut down the background noise when they're not in there. So I'm going to put these in and bypass them so they don't automatically come on. After the gate comes a compressor, and I'm going to use the standard compressor so I have more options with ratios and stuff. What's this comment? I agree. Quality is top, just quiet. Oh, you need to add volume compared to me and the live feed? Hey. Check. All right, I'm bringing it up a little bit. Let me know if that's cool. I know this is not like a super hard compressed thing. And I'll turn my headphones down a little bit. Let me know if that volume is okay or if it's 15 dB too quiet. So what are we doing here? A utility gain for volume of the sound coming through. A gate so we can cut out stuff if we don't want it. A compressor so we can squash the sound the way we want to. Next, we're going to drop EQ8, which is huge. I mean, most mixing boards have like 3-band EQ, maybe 4-band, maybe 5-band. Another thing you might not think of as a channel strip part is a high-pass filter switch. And on analog boards or live sound boards, this usually comes in up top right after the utility gain. So we're going to call this high-pass filter, and they're usually preset at something around 100 hertz because that's for stage rumble, or for example, if you have a mic on stage and people are stomping their feet dancing, you don't want that bass coming through the mic, so you put in a high-pass filter just to get rid of the foot noise. Kind of standard practice. Compressor EQ, we're going to compress before EQing. You can debate that if you want to. Sometimes we EQ before we compress. High-pass filter is sort of like kind of EQing before the compressor. After that, we have an EQ section, and what else would there be? The pan knob would be after that, volume and sends. Yeah, EQ8 is basically the channel strip I want to have. Instead of a pan knob, let's do this. Let's do another utility. This one's going to be called mono. And that'll be in case I want to use this on a bass drum sound, sub bass sound, something like that. And then it would go down into the volume section, the sends, and any kind of reverbs and delays are like creative effects that are not really part of the sound we're they're not part of the channel strip. They're like things that happen after the sound. Or in other words, all the channels might go into one reverb. So if I have a bunch of drums, maybe I have all those drums go into the reverb. So I'm not going to try and put reverb on this channel. I'm not going to put delay on this channel. Some things in this mix do have a sound that's part of the, like the instrument. For example, this one. There is this auto pan. Because by itself, the sound is really kind of flat. So the auto pan is part of the creative sound design. It's not part of the channel strip. That's why I left that on there, and I think I deleted everything else. So let me know if you're with me so far. Finn says, still kind of quiet, but it's all right. After blasting your ears. Yeah, turn up your headphone volume. If everybody else is okay with the sound, I'm going to keep going. I do want it to sound good for you, but we got to, can't sit around all day tweaking that. And I do have my monitors, and my monitor says it's coming out at a pretty decent level. So anybody wants to comment, let me know. Other than that, gonna keep rolling and flowing here. So there's my kick drum, and now with the that's a bunch of plugins. We got to scroll back and forth. It's a lot going on. So I'm gonna do the Ableton trick and select all these plugins in the channel strip. Utility gain. That's all of them. Now I do Command G and group. And since I'm smart, I'm gonna say channel strip mix a texture. And I'm going to save this before I do anything else, so I have a blank copy of the channel strip, and I don't have to, when I drop it on something else, it'll be totally blank. Maybe at the end of the video, we'll do some macro mapping to control like what we want to have on there. How many plugins do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Utility mono is 6. And if I really wanted to be sly, I might put a limiter in there just because I can. But 6 plugins, so we could do macro knob for on-off. We could do macro knob for like gain or something like that. So now let's just start using this strip. I want this kick drum to sound good. I don't want it to sound all thin and wimpy and weak. So let's get some kick drum sound happening here. And I want to disable that automation. Now I know that kick drum is too quiet. Fortunately, we have gain. Yeah, 9 dB of gain. Remember, I'm going to add some more with compression and things like that. Do I need high pass filter on here? Let's look at our master spectrum. Looks like the peak of that kick drum is not too super subby. So I'm going to put this in, go down to 75, add a bump, and leave it. Let's start minimizing these. Do I need a gate on this kick drum? I don't think so. A gate on a kick drum would be great for live sound when the background noise makes the kick drum start feeding back if like the bass guitar goes into the kick drum mic. So we're just going to skip that entirely. There are good moments to use a gate on a kick drum, but this is not one of them. Compressor. What's a good kick drum ratio? 5:1. I'm going to do the maximum everything. Super short attack, long release, total smash. Open up the attack till I can hear the attack time come through. With kick drums, a longer attack lets more bass through. Enrique Capolero, what's up, man? Now we got the gain, we got a bit of compression, not going crazy. Short release time so that the gain reduction is gone before the next kick comes in. Now EQ8, feeling great. What are we going to do? Okay. Let's turn on band 2. I had to grab my controls there. The EQ sweep technique. Grab a frequency, boost it up, sweep around, find a place that's ugly, and then cut it down. Wait, question from Finn. What did you just listen for opening the attack time? Can you give another example? Okay, I'll go back to that. That's a good question. So for the kick drum, when the attack time is really short and there's too much compression, it's almost like just a little click. It's really squashed. Now listen to what happens as I open the attack time. You'll hear more and more low end come through. until there's almost no compression. Let's go back. And as I get down under 30 milliseconds, it's like the bass just gets cut. And the reason is bass waveforms are longer physically. They're like a bigger wave, longer. They take more time to come through. And when the attack time is down below a couple milliseconds, the low end frequencies literally do not have time to get through the compressor before the gain reduction hits. So that's why you don't want a super short attack time on your kick drum. You want something like 50 milliseconds or something. Andy May, why is volume on channels -7, but then you increase gain +9 on the utility? Aha, we are, this is gain staging. I want the volume on the channel like -9 so that everything going to the master bus is not up to the red. But within the channel, I want to keep it peaking all the way to the top of the channel, which is like saying I want the most concentrated kick drum sound without being watered down here. That's the volume within the channel. And then when it gets, this volume control is the output volume of how much of that channel sound is going to the master. Let me know if that makes sense. Other comments, Bobby says, increase the attack till it sounds better or the initial transient sounds best. Basically, that's what we're doing. Yeah, thank you. That's a good way to say it, initial transient. Question for later on, when's it ready to move to arrangement? That is a question for later. Okay, so I hope that answered the question about attack time. And the cool thing is when your attack time is long enough, you can smash the gain reduction and it still sounds like a kick drum. So let's leave that like that. And now for my EQing. Oh, that looks like it's getting crushed on my feed. Better bring that down. It is hard to do gain staging going out to a live feed because I'm changing the levels really a lot. So back to EQ land. I was talking about the frequency sweep technique where you grab a parametric EQ, boost it up, sweep it around to find something that sounds nasty. Like that pitch. Boom, boom, boom. And I'm going to duck that down. I'll save band 1 for something else. Maybe I'll do another little EQing on band 2 because we got a lot of channels to go through. I want parametric on here. Another kind of sound, that's kind of pingy. Bop, bop. Let's take that out. Go to band 4. I almost always want a little bit of a click in there. By click, I mean this. Not super obvious, but it's just there in place. And then band 1, let's jack up some lows. Down around 60. Now, did I go to the low end and boost the bass first? No, I did not. I did cut before you boost, cut out some stuff, and then push it up a little bit. And that's basically all I want to do for this kick drum. A, B. Total difference. And watch the gain on the master channel peaking at -16 and -11. So there's still a lot of room to add the other sounds in there after I've got this coming through here. But look, on this little VU meter, on the sound going through the channel, it's up to the top of the 0 dB level. It's almost into the red. So that means I'm getting the maximum signal compared to the noise ratio. Like empty space is noise and green is signal. So that's our channel strip for the kick drum. Now, if I was smart, I would save that as a kick drum channel strip. But let's not do that. Let's go on to our sub bass. And now I need to drop a fresh one, a zeroed out, normalized sound. Okay, now when do I use gain? I want to stop scrolling like that. I want to show you. Question, when do I use gain? Answer is when I see empty space at the top of that channel, I add a bit of gain. Don't need to go crazy. How do I use the high pass filter? Well, let's look at what notes are playing, find out where the bottom of this sound is going to be. Well, 36. That's a sub bass, so we're going to put the high pass filter in just to get all the way at the bottom of the range. 30 hertz, A little bit of a bump. That's just like a speaker protector, so we don't get any like inaudible bass coming through. Do we need gate on this? Again, I like these long bass notes, so we're not going to use gate. Gate is probably the least popular plugin I use for standard tools. High pass filter is the most common. EQ compression after that. Always use those. And I don't often use a separate gain. I usually get gain, makeup gain from compression. Now, compression on the bass. What's my strategy here? Well, basically, I want these notes coming out at the same level so that when the kick drum is playing and the sub bass is playing, I can hear them both. And ding from Enrique, answer my question about arrangement, please. How many ideas, hooks do you create before arranging? When is it ready to move to arrangement? How many ideas do you think you need in the session view? You need 2 ideas in session view. One is the complete track with the bass line and beats. The second idea is a B section to compare that to, so you have like A and B, and you can make a whole track with that. Other than that, it goes into songwriting if you want to have like a verse, a chorus, a climb, a breakdown, bridge, all that kind of thing. But for the most basic electronic music, you really actually only need 1 theme, and then the parts would be like, I don't know, sub bass, bass line, chords, and a lead melody, so like 4 synth parts, and then as many layers of beats as you want. It could be 1 beat loop, could be literally one beat loop, 1 bass line, synth chords, synth lead, 4-channel mix. That's the most basic thing. I hope that's enough of an answer for now. I want to keep going on bass compression to keep this topic focused here. So what's my strategy with bassline compression? Basically, just make sure that the notes are all coming out at the same level and we can hear them all. So crank down the short attack, long release, super smash. And this time I think I'm going to keep a long release time so that the level stays down. And the attack time will give us a little bit of a bite on the front of the sound. I have the feeling I want long, slow bass notes here. Now I'm bringing these 2 up. I want to make sure I still have headroom over here and I can still see what's going on in my spectrum. So now I can clearly see these bass notes are popping up pretty close to the same volume level. That's really close actually. And I can clearly make out the kick drum is here. It's big down to 70-something hertz, and the sub bass is hanging on below that. Now I'm going to double this bass line with an upper bass line to pull out the pitch and really make sure we can hear the notes that are playing. But for now, I just went through the channel strip, hit up some gain, filter, compressor. I don't even feel like I need EQ on this, right? I mean, it's like 4 bass notes they're playing. Save that for later. Mono, do we want utility mono on? Yes, we do. Just to make sure. Did I put mono on in the kick drum channel? No, I did not. Bad DJ. Okay, low end and mono because we don't want phase problems. Oh, Mike Lattimore, thanks for answering Enrique on that. It's always great to hear a couple more opinions, get more points of view because I do what I do, but there's a lot of ways to approach things. What is on channel 3 drums? Hope this comes out. All right, so that's like a recycled drum break. Make sure this drum rack is only a drum rack, nothing else going on in there. Where's my channel strip? Ding, enter, pow, drop. There we go. Minimize the macros. So first thing I'm going to check at the end of the channel. That's up pretty close to the top of the peak. You can see the green bars are almost up to the top there, so I'm not going to add any gain. Let's look at the master channel, and the question is, how low is this sound? How much bass is in this sound? And the question is, do I want that bass? Do I want sub bass in this drum break? No. The high end is all nice and flat. Since I have a low kick drum going up, 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 down low, I think somewhere probably around 120 hertz is where I want to cut this to give me a bit of low frequency for that kick, but not a ton of it. So again, frequency sweep. Jack up some volume, sweep around, find the part you want, find out what to get rid of. I can hear some tubby kind of flub down there, but let's cut around here around 105, buck 05, minimize that. Now gate might be interesting here. I like to do the maximum settings, so I make a really, really, really short gate so I can really hear where it's happening. And then modify the settings to make it sound a little more usable. Now a long release time is going to pretty much keep the gate open. Short release time is going to keep it closed. And the noise floor is useful here. If I want it chopped up but not that hard of a chop, you can dial the noise floor down so it's only just cutting out a little bit of the volume. And what I'm doing right here is kind of like cutting out the reverb in between those hits. Right now I can hear all that like space behind each note, and the gate allows me to reduce that stuff. I happen to like this drum break, so I'm going to leave it leave it open, but I wanted to show you how I would use the gate on a drum break. Compression. We were talking about parallel compression last week where you can completely smash a sound. Let's do a low ratio, like 2.5 to 1. Short attack, long release. Crank it down. What do we get? How are my levels on this? At any time, let me know if you want more volume or not. I'm happy to adjust it. I know I'm going up and down a lot. Patrick Vestman's here. Eric Cohen is here. Cool, man. Legends in the house. Eric, I love seeing your home painting projects that are going on during quarantine. I know we're all trying to find stuff to do. So what's my compression strategy? First, I want to crank it down and hear what's inside this beat. Then I'm going to open up the attack time and bring out the transients on the front. Go a little bit down again. Threshold and makeup gain go together. I like to keep a hand on both of them, so as I bring the threshold down, I can bring the makeup up and still hear the beat. So that's like a real compressed beat. Now let's back off on the release time. So right here it's starting to pulse. You can hear the compressor letting go and the front of the hits getting smacked. So what I did so far was I dialed in my attack and my release times to get the snappy transients the way I want it to. Now I'm going to bring up my output gain, dial down some more compression, and get it to more like a moderate, sort of natural feel of the compression. The strategy here is kind of like I was saying with the bass line. I want all those drum hits to be nearby a loud level so I can hear them all. To solve the problem that if you have a drum break in a busy mix, if parts of the drum break are quiet, it's just going to sound like they're gone, like they're missing. Andy May, would it make sense to drop the presets in the mixing in the channel strips? Yes, definitely. Use those right here. When you you pick up your EQ, hit the hot swap button, go to your presets, and drop in the one you like. That's exactly where you would use that. This compression is not super obvious, and honestly, really good compression should not be always something that sticks out like, hey, I'm compressed. It's like kind of a sneaky little thing you do to hear more of the sound you want and not tons of the stuff you don't want. Let's keep it moving in the EQ8 zone. What are we gonna do with EQ? EQ. Making my controller on it. Pretty much same thing I've been doing. Frequency sweep, boost something up, look for something nasty, cut it out. Right away, 600. You can always cut 600 on a drum break. Last week somebody described resonance as sounding like a bell, like if there was somebody ringing a bell inside the sound. So that's another. I like to cut out those resonant zones that are getting in the way. I found something around 600 the first time I sweeped through here, so right away I was like, ugh. Do you want that in your mix? No. That's garbage right there. Get rid of that. So I made 2 good cuts. Let's go to let's go to a high frequency and do a shelf, because I pretty much like everything on top. I'm not picky on this. I like that cymbal. I like the hi-hats. Everything down to here. I don't want to go crazy, but sure, a couple 3 dB. That's plenty enough on there. And likewise on the low end. Now what I want to do is cut out as much as possible and still have a drum break that sounds like a drum break. So to get there, I'm going to fire up the whole low end. And my question is, how much of the bass can I cut out of this drum break before it is too much? Like, that's too much, right? When I get down below 120, I hear like kind of nasty low end come in. Hear that around 140? So that's what I don't want, so I'm just gonna tuck it in right there. And that drum break is not thumpy. That's not like, that doesn't sound like hip hop, like boom, boom, bop, boom, boom, you know what I mean? But together with this low end over there, it's working for me. So that's what I'm doing with EQ8. A couple of 2 deep cuts, cut before you boost up the highs, get rid of the lows, and we're good to go. Do I want a mono on this? No, but remember, Ableton's utility lets us play around with stereo width. So what if I just bump that up a little bit, like one, not even that much. A little bit of width. How'd we do? There's off, there's on. Off, on. How would you describe that drum break so far? Let me know what you think. To me, the word is like, no, I don't want to tell you. Type in a word for how that drum break sounds after the EQ is on. Right, you know what I mean? Hear what I'm saying right there? Yeah, type in something. How do you think that drum break sounds after we did some processing on that? I definitely like it better, but I want to know what kind of words you might use. What is Big Sun Kit? Well, it's green, and my green channel is percussion, so I'm thinking that's going to be a drums group. Where's my channel strip? I don't know where my channel strip is. That's going to be in user library presets. Oh, there it is. Doo-doo-doo-doo, Big Sun Kit channel strip. Wait, is anything on there already? Big Sun Kit is an instrument. Okay, so I'm going to keep all the parts of the instrument that are part of the sound design and drop a channel strip completely after that. Ooh, Andy May said crisp. Cool, man. Eric said meaty. Ooh, meaty. Meaty is nice. I was going to say clean. And when the channel strip was out, it sounded kind of like tubby, like flippy, flip, flip, like it wasn't really, wasn't really holding together. So thanks, cool. Glad everybody's hanging out. We're good. Big Sun Kit. Yep, that's a clean channel strip. What's on here? Where's this coming from? MIDI notes. Okay, so we're working with the drum rack. Do we have a drum rack? We have a drum rack. All right, good. That's me identifying what's the sound, what's it coming from, what can I expect from it. By the way, Eric, DJ Strobe, man, if you ever want to come in and do a live video in our group and show some of your magical tricks, you are absolutely welcome to do that. Or do a stream and just mix some records or something like that. I'm all down with collaboration, and I know you like teaching and you got some great tutorials, so think about it. See if you want to do something. Channel strip, let's minimize the macros. Utility gain, how do I know? Do I need gain? Well, the end of the channel strip, the volume within the channel is all the way up to the top, so I don't need any gain. I also notice, oh, okay, so the pan knob was moved on there. Sometimes if you had a sound that was off balance within your channel strip, like if it was recorded on a stereo field and the recording was off balance, you could balance it at the beginning of the channel with utility. But we haven't seen that problem yet. Next question, what is in this sound? In other words, do I need to keep the low end, or what? What's going on in the sound? What are you all about? Oh, I love it. Clack, right there. 2 kilohertz is that snick. There's the hi-hat right up there. And look how much low end is in that hi-hat, down to 275 and below. So that's cool. That gives me a good picture of the sound. Let's cut this up with the high-pass filter to around 200 or 300 something. Again, I like to go to extremes, go too far, and then dial it back. See if I boost up around 250, all that low hi-hat. Doop, doop. Not having it. Just around 300. It's not rocket science. You know, it's pretty straight up. Gate is great for getting rid of reverb in sounds that have a little too much background noise. Or also, if I like this loop the way it is, but if I was coming up to a drop and I wanted to really like strip it down, I could go like this and make it like really tight, like only beats and bass and nothing else in between. So this is an example of where a gate could function as kind of our creative, fun sound design. So let's leave that right there. Compression. How do you know if you need compression? Well, can we hear everything that this sound is doing? Let's bring in our whole mix and ask the question, do we hear that Big Sun drum kit? I hear it. There's only 2 sounds. It's a snare drum and a snap and a hi-hat. So as long as I can hear those 2 sounds and they're coming through decently loud and it's loud in the channel strip, I don't think it really needs to be compressed, but let's compress it to death anyway, just to find out what might happen. So one hand on the threshold, one hand on the makeup gain. As I crank the threshold down, I can add some makeup. And that's like way dead, so let's open up our attack. That's a really compressed sound. Let's do the whole channel strip A, B here. All right, so I can hear the difference with the channel strip on. Let me know if you can hear the AB. Type in AB or something. And it's not a super incredible difference, but the cool thing is that when you make, it's a small difference, but when you make all these little small differences all the way through your whole mix, it's like 1,000 small decisions that line up to make a really great track. And now now I'm gonna do the EQ. Since we already cut out the bass of this track, and it's like really obvious what's working in here, I'm gonna EQ this in the mix, and I'm gonna go straight to boosting some sounds. This is a pretty stripped down sound. And I like that because I can just grab the parts I want, listen to it in the mix, and pull up what I need. This is one of these snap sounds. I almost want this sound to make you blink. It's like so like. So let's jack that up a little bit. Go to band 3, get some more hi-hat in here. No, not that part. I have the wrong EQ shape. I like all those high frequencies. I want a shelf right here. And what I'm listening to right now, believe it or not, I'm listening to this one. And I'm thinking, what do I hear in that drum beat? How can I pull up something else in this drum beat? Something like that. Now band 1 to check our work. Let's get all this out of here, see if we lose anything. I can high pass up to 1,000 and I'm not losing anything. If I want more of a heavy weight on that hi-hat, I could leave some of that low end. It's subtle, but it's still there. Let's A-B. Check that out. And now I am honestly exaggerating this a lot. I don't know if I want to jack up 7 dB of EQ. But it's good that we can hear the difference. And we're making some progress here. And now around this time I might just mute my bus. Mute all my effects. In case I had some reverbs on there. And I want to make sure these two sound good together. So when the drums bus is in, those two sound nice together. Now I can move that whole group up and down compared to the lows. Get that working. Now we're into the land of the arpeggiator bass. This is like a copy of our other bass. Let's make sure I don't drop it in too loud. I'm gonna fade it up because I don't know what's gonna happen. Feels like we got a bass situation happening down there. I can already feel it. Channel strip. What's in the master? Oh boy. That's going down to that's going down to 30 hertz. That's got some sub, but I love it because there's all this high frequency in there, super buzzy filter sound, and we have our other sub holding down the lows. Let's check this out. I'm gonna mute my percussion, bring in the whole thing. Remember that? If I have that mono sub bass going all down there under 100, this arpeggiator bass doesn't really need very much low end in there. So, what's my routine here? Check my channel level, signal to noise ratio. Do I have enough signal and not that much noise? Yeah, the green is almost up to the top. That's healthy signal, and I have some compressor and EQ to add more gain later. Do I want this on mono? No, I don't. It's going to be a mid-range bass sound. I can do some stereo width on here. So let's go right into... What notes is this bass line playing? Bow, 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 bow. That's starting on A or G. What I do is I put my mouse on the line and spectrum, look in the little box, read the hertz, read the MIDI note. That tells me exactly where to EQ. So if this bump right there is a starting note, down, 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 right around A, frequency says 109, buck 10. So I can go to doop, go to there. Don't even have to listen. I can type in 110. And I keep all that greasy grime on top, and I don't need all those lows. And I might even cut out some more of that. Because I love this high end, and I don't need a ton of the, I'm getting all that bass from the other side. Do I want to gate this? No. It's pulsing, it's buzzing, lots of sound in there that I like. Don't need a gate. What's my compressor strategy? I do want this sound a little bit louder, but it's pulsing, right? It's like bup, 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 bup. I want to keep the gaps in between the pulse, so I don't want to squish out this thing and make it like a flat line. I want to just find out where the peaks are hitting. And that's going to be enough. I like it that this is kind of swelling and coming in and out. It's got a frequency shift. The filter's moving. So I want to keep that pulse, keep that frequency moving, and not compress it to death. What's my EQ plan? not even do anything on the EQ until I get some of the other sounds in here because the bass sounds good in the whole mix. It's not really conflicting with anything else. And the only problem might be that there's too much high frequency compared to the other sounds. Patrick Vestman, this sounds like some of your new wave 80s stuff. So now we're getting into the world of EQing together, where I can't really make decisions on that bass line until I get this one plugged in. There's my peaks right there. 165, that's going to be my high-pass frequency, filter frequency. I got AutoPan on here, that's part of the sound. Arpeggiator is part of the sound. These are sound design plugins, so I'm going to leave them there. They're not part of my channel strip, so I don't have to take them off. Doink, channel strip, yippee. Utility, skip it. High pass filter, what did I say, 150? Just to get rid of that extra bass out of there that I don't need. I'm kind of going a little faster now. Do I want a gate? Well, that's kind of cool. Keep that in mind, it makes it more jumpy, more choppy. How is our overall gain on this? Do we need more level? So, compressor, one hand on threshold, one hand on output. Bringing up the makeup gain. Long enough attack time that it's not getting smashed. And a cool thing about electronic music is that synths often come out at a consistent level because it's an electronic circuit. Like compared to a microphone, like a person moving on a microphone. Moving farther away, moving closer up, moving farther away, moving closer up. Singers and bands have a much wider range of sounds just because sometimes they're moving around a lot physically. Synths don't have that problem as much. Some synths have built-in compression before you even hear it on the output. So you don't automatically have to compress your synths. I like to use compression to get an idea of where the volume's coming up. Do some little bit of adjustments. Now EQing on this synth. What do we need? Doink, doink, doink. And brighten it up a little bit. Now let's go back to this bass sound. Question right now is I'm asking how much of the high end can I cut off this bass sound before I lose it? I need to keep some space for the high end because I still have a lead sound over here. I have this other synth, there's cymbals and hi-hat and stuff. There's a lot of stuff in the high frequency that's important. So I can't really let this bass sound, I'm not gonna let it be up in that high frequency all the time. Some part of the song I will open that up when the bass is by itself. But right now, I mean, I could crank this down to 300 and I still have a functioning arpeggiator thing because it's in its own space. So let's just leave this around 2K like that. And likewise, this has a nice shape, not too much highs in there. Let's do the same thing. Roll down the highs on this, I don't even know what to call that sound. Mic up. Okay. Mic up, music down. Thanks, Mats. What do my levels look like? Hey, check, 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 check. Good. Making sure I'm not turning it red. So same question over here. How much of this sound can I cut out and still keep the important part? And that's a real mid-range tone. I don't need a lot of high frequency in there, so I basically just made a bandpass filter right now for that one. What's in our leads group? Oh, 3 of them. right, now I'm getting a little lost. I'm gonna stop and mix just the volumes of these three together. I wanna hear that low bass. And it's a lot easier to EQ if you have a rough volume mix in place. And these guys, that's my high frequency. So where's my channel strip? There it is. So cool. I love presets. All right, minimize that. How is our gain structure? That group needs some gain. Now, since I have these as three separate things, I could take all these three volumes and bring them up to get more gain. But we're in the digital realm. I'm not adding a lot of background noise, so I'm gonna use my gain here. Let's go up 6. Let's widen that out a little bit just for fun. Why not? Question, how much bass is in here? Do we need it? Whoa, there's a lot of bass in there. I didn't know that. Clearly, we don't need anything under 200, so back to the channel strip. High pass filter, activate. And frequency up to like 200. Let me know, by the way, is this, Andy says very helpful. Oh, you gotta go, but catch the end on the post later. Thank you. I was about to ask everybody if this is, if you like seeing what I'm doing here, because I feel like I'm doing the same thing over and over and over again, but it's a little bit different each time on each channel. And when you're a live sound engineer, you have to do everything we're doing today, you have to do in like 3 minutes while the band is setting up before the show starts. So it gets to be a routine. So high pass filter in around 200. And I don't want the gate at all. I like this whole sound. That's kind of cool. I might use that as a creative tool to add emphasis to the pulse, but whatever, that's for later. Same thing with compression. Do I need compression on here? I can hear what's happening, right? Well, channel 10's too loud. Now, if I had no other options, I would use compression to get more of those side frequencies, the higher and mid-range voicing, and less of the center one that's too loud. So that's a cool thing about compression is it brings up the background level, and a lot of times the stereo information is in the, or the background level has stereo information in it, like a reverb or something. So when you compress something hard, you can also kind of secretly widen the stereo width a little bit. It's one of those weird things. So that's working for me. It's still pulsing. Nice level coming through. Let's check it out in our group. So now you can hear this group is really filling in the high end. EQ8. I don't even need all the mid-range of that one. I could let that be the buzzy high frequency. So I think I'm going to take it easy and only cut out some of the lows of this synth group, leave them on top, because basically I did all the hard work already. We cut the high end out of the arpeggiator bass and the mid-range plucks or whatever those are. We worked on the high end on the drum kits with the hi-hats and the cymbal crash and everything, and we definitely have very little high end at all in the subs. So by the time I get to the leads, since it's a buzzy high frequency sound, all I really have to do is balance the energy level of that within the instrument group, and everything else should be cool. Right away I noticed that kick drum wasn't loud enough, so what I'm going to do is turn up my faders. Instead of trying to jack up the low end to match that high, I'm going to turn up my headphone mix, right? Turn up the bass. Let me check my meters. This is where I have to make sure it's okay for you on your end. And somebody else asked for a video about how I do streaming. This is how I do it. You have to watch your meters all the time. Here comes the drums. I really hear that crack coming through there, that snap. Tick, tick, tick. First thing I want to do is get that mid-range bass up loud and clear compared to the drums, because that's an important part of the mix. Now I'm going to bring other mids down, slowly fade them in just till I can hear it. Same thing with the leads. I'm not going to unmute with that up loud. No way. I don't want to blast my ears. Bring the volume fader down, unmute it, and then bring it up. So now let's go back to this channel strip and play with our mono width device button. Do I get a... I'm looking for the mono knob on... wider and possibly a bit louder. You know what I want to do to check this whole thing? I want to see how all these channel strips sound when we A-B the whole thing. So I'm going to get a key that's not doing anything else, like Z, and go through our whole channel strip world and put the same control key on every one, so we can A-B all of them. Bypass all the channel strips together. We're going to bypass all the channel strips together and hear what our music sounds like with all those sounds. Hopefully it'll be better. Okay, there's our leads, and I got nothing on my groups, right? Master has some compression just for level at the feed. Now, I'm going to hit the Z key. Oh my god. Here's the mix with none of those channel strips. Oh, I did the wrong one. Sorry. It's interesting that that noisy drum loop sounds the most similar. Let me know if you can hear that. I know you can hear that. I'm just reviewing the EQ curves here. And it completely snaps into focus. With a mix like this, I don't care how loud you turn it up, it's not going to sound better. That's pretty cool. Alright, I'm going to turn off that lead channel so I can talk and take it down. And that might be it for today. That was cool. I never did that video before. I never made a channel strip and then applied it in a mix to all the channels. Luckily, we only had 8. If we had 35 channels, it would have been too many. Matt's question, what would be the difference on using wide and utility on a lead in the beginning compared to putting it on the end? I don't know the answer. I don't think there's that much of a difference. None of the other plugins are changing the stereo field, or I'm not doing like mid-side EQ or anything like that. So Making the utility wider at the beginning of the channel strip is kind of like saying we had a stereo widener inside the synth, like two oscillators that were panned opposite or something like that. But it's an interesting question. You could play around with it and see if you find out an answer. That's kind of leading into the question about phase. Somebody was asking, how do you work with phase? What's a phase problem look like? How do you solve it? And we create phase problems by doing intense stereo widening. So if you came in late, this has been the lesson on channel strips. We started at the beginning with my trusty, rusty, old mixing board where you have sound coming in the top at a mic input. Get my headphone cable off my arm. Sounds come in the top at a mic input. We did gain with the utility plugin to make sure the signal is loud within that channel, right? Signal to noise ratio, you want the loud sound, not much background empty space. We did some EQing. Now in live, I did a high pass filter first. It's an amazing digital advantage to have that. A lot of mixing boards, the high pass filter is right there, like below the head amp gain and above the EQs, you'll have a little switch to put in a high pass filter. They're usually fixed. It's 80 hertz or 100 hertz to get rid of what they call stage rumble or the noise of people walking on a stage in the microphones. Then your EQ section, then your sends for your auxes, which are a copy of volume knob to a different output. There's your volume knob. There is a different output that you can use for sending to effects or something like that. And then the basics, pan knob, mute switch, volume, fader. That is why we call it a channel strip. And the amazing advantage we have in Ableton, kind of like on a digital board, this is an analog board over here, but in a digital mixer, there's one panel on top that has like gate, filter, compressor, EQ, stereo, pan, volume or whatever. And there's only one group of knobs, like controllers, and then you select which channel you want to control with them. So like, it's not like here where you have a different EQ knob for every channel going across on analog style. On digital boards, you're like, select this channel, use all the same knobs. Select this channel, use all the same knobs. And there's little lights that jump in different positions to show you where the knobs are. The point I'm trying to make is, if I wanted to do everything we just did with a digital board like this, I would need 24 high pass filters, 24 channels of stereo EQ, 24 compressors that had a gate in them. That's why you look in studios, there are these big, huge racks of gear like over here. You know why this gear is all empty? Because I don't have to buy 16 stereo compressors to run a mix. It's amazing. If you wanted to be a sound engineer and go to a show and mix with a portable rig, you would need like road cases full of hardware compressors, gates, reverb units, compressors, all that stuff and patch cables to patch them into your channels. And every single one of those things was a potential point of failure where something could go wrong, get crazy noisy, a rat chews your wires, you don't know what happened. So it's an amazing, incredible advantage right now to be able to drop plugins on your tracks, hit your channels with whatever you can imagine, get them into shape quickly, save it as a preset, and have that in your mix to get that A-B sound, that before and after sound that we had just today. Oh, my key command doesn't work because I'm in my broadcaster. So if you have any questions, let me know. I'm about done for today. It's been an hour, and I guess I'm going to take a second and just talk about what's coming up. This is really exciting. What's over here? Woo! Pow! In your eyeball. 74 creative strategies for electronic music production. A great thing that happened on Saturday, if you didn't see the post, I asked Dennis DeSantis if I can use his book as a textbook to teach from. And I wasn't sure because I thought, there's copyright. I've got to show it on video. It might be illegal. So I thought, hey, I'm gonna email this dude. So I emailed him on Saturday morning. He wrote back in half an hour right away. And he said, yes. He said, it's an honor. He's happy to hear it. He wants to see what we're doing. He thought it was totally cool. So what I'm going to do is build those 74 strategies out into live videos, Ableton projects, and downloads with a session lesson you can download. So like, you get the project. You can do it yourself. You can play with it. You can press play and hear it. There might be some instructions or automation that I record inside the Ableton project to let you take it further without having to like read the book and build the session and do all that stuff. I'm going to do all that stuff for you on video. You'll see how to do it. And then if it works right, I'm going to try and do this whole book by the end of 2020 because I don't want to do one lesson a week would take 74 weeks. That's like more than a year. I don't want to do that. I don't think it should take that long. Some of the lessons might not be possible. I know there's some lessons where he talks about recording acoustic instruments or something like that. So I'm not sure how I'm going to do that, but I think if we do like 2 lessons a week from now until the end of the year, I think by the end of 2020, we could get through the whole book and build out lessons from this book into Ableton projects for people to play with and download and do. I think that would be so totally cool. So let me know if you're down with that. Finn Max says, I've been dabbling in that book and it's pretty cool indeed. Wrote you a comment on what I'd like to see. Oh, cool. Thank you. I didn't see your comment yet because I only have my one chat window up. But that's what's coming. So that's going to start Monday the 20th. I'm going to take the rest of this week to do build a container and make a place to upload all those things so it's easy to find on the member site. And for the rest of this week, I'm going to do some more of the requested lessons on phase or warping or there's a bunch of them. So thanks for sending in those requests. I really like hearing what you want to learn about because it's so fun to take a simple or a single thing and do a lesson in a very specific way. Like today, I love this lesson. It was really fun for me. So thanks, Andy May. Thanks, Alex. I can't write your name down. It's like Larkin Alex or something like that. I don't know. Sorry, I got your name wrong. Thanks for watching, everybody. Leave me questions, leave me comments. And if you're watching on YouTube, I do the live chat in the Facebook group, so come to the Mixitecture Facebook group. This is going to automatically go to replay afterwards. And that's all for today. I'll see y'all tomorrow at around 12 o'clock, same time. Thanks. Pump it up.